would have stayed the hell away from our grandma, I thought. I think they knew what was good for them. They'd have known not to tangle with old Rose. Yeah, they just rushed down from the skies and wished her away, I said, crossing my arms. I looked over at the copper metal urn containing her ashes on a central dais that was cleverly lit from above, like a comedian in the spotlight or police interrogation room. A wreath of flowers, her namesake, leaned against the Greek, or was it Roman, column bearing her urn. Her portrait propped up to one side, in case we'd already forgotten what she looked like. Her short, curly white hair accented her mischievous grin, smile lines pleading her beautiful brown eyes, deep set in her cherubic face behind ebony skin. The faux wood paneling and dark velvet curtains gave the scene a play-like atmosphere, a dull one. I could imagine our deceased grandmother sitting at the front row, semi-transparent at her own funeral, giving the whole proceedings the slow, cynical clap it deserved. This wasn't her, not by far. I could picture her ghost, irate at all this somber bullshit, glaring at the whole proceedings, tisking, while shaking her head in disapproval, in a manner that was proper only to her. She'd turn around and raise an eyebrow at me, asking silently, "Why?" And I wouldn't know what to tell her. I could have envisioned her body dressed in something nice, crowd surfing at a Grateful Dead concert. Not this. I couldn't for the life of me comprehend why she would have arranged this as her last wishes. By all appearances, someone had hijacked her funeral to make a mockery of her death. But there were only the two of us left. I doubt my own sister was responsible. The same type of music that must have been played while the Titanic sank rang tinny from speakers in the recesses of the room, giving me sparkling shivers every time the frigid waters of the Arctic came to the forefront of my mind. This sucked. The only oblivious person to the fact was Olivia, who made the rounds from angel to angel, peering into every childlike face as if it could be her own someday. I sighed. Olivia frowned. "What?" she said. I only shrugged and wished I could leave, but of course that would have been lacking in proper respect, kind of like the whole present event. Of course, there could have been no others than Olivia and I to attend. Our mother was her only child, and Grandpa had died years ago. Our great-uncle Philbert had been a confirmed bachelor, and being older than Rose and male, had been only around briefly while we were young. Mom and Dad were a distant memory, kept alive by the pictures we'd squirreled away in various albums in our rooms. Simply put, death surrounded us and our family. Distant relatives shunned Rose, because as they told us, she was hard to handle. That's exactly what I'd loved about her. That's why this was such an unsatisfactory end for me. You'd never expect her to go quietly, not even at her own funeral. Crazy how Olivia smiled and looked enchanted by this place, like she'd found her very own personal theme park, and it was even more wonderful than she'd imagined. Maybe she'd start hanging around at other people's funerals and tell them how wonderful it was, and I couldn't suppress the shudder that came with it. The imaginary ghost in the front row was getting antsy, and I wanted to leave so badly. Olivia paced around the room, more interested in the trappings of simulated peace than the person we'd come to see, and I felt my neck stiffen. Grandma's ghost had crossed her arms in the front, and I had to leave the room. The warm summer air blasted my face, and the simulacrum of eternal rest was blown away. Here, life lived. The busy traffic on Carling Avenue rushed by a few steps away from me, oblivious to the fact that my world had ended. Olivia was still inside, and the heat of the afternoon sun baked the sidewalk I'd planted my feet on. The funeral silence was replaced by twittering birds in the bustling street. No wind blew that day, and so the surrounding trees simply stood guard and watched me put my face in my hands and sit on the steps to the funeral home. I'll leave it there.